Alright, this is Weapon X Reacts, and we're back with another video, and this is going to be a review of Brothers, which is a film directed by Jim Sheldon, and to me, this is honestly one of the most emotionally powerful movies that I have ever seen in my life, as it was just so well acted and directed. And not just that, but this is a film that I totally recommend that you should go check out once in your life, as it is going to be an experience that you will never forget. But I will warn you that this film can get pretty hard to watch at times. But still, this is an amazing film that deserves a lot more attention, especially in the world that we live in today. And I am just going to let you know that there will be a lot of spoilers in this review. I am going to break down the plot of this film. So, while on tour in Afghanistan, Sam's copter is shot down and he is presumed dead. Back home, it is his screw-up brother who looks after the family. Sam does return, but with a lot of excess baggage. If there was one thing that I really liked about this film, is the way in how it does such an amazing job at telling a story that is deeply compelling. And while it may look simple at times, this is a very well written and complex movie that will stay with you long after it's over. And to me, one of the most interesting things about this film is the fact that it is so much more than just a war drama, but a powerful study on PTSD and broken families as a whole. And not just that, but I thought some of the acting performances were really well done, especially from Tobey Maguire as Sam Cahill. And to me, this is honestly one of his best performances, as he does such an amazing job at portraying his character as someone who you can actually care about. And when we first see his character in the opening scene of the film, it immediately starts off with Sam Cahill and the Marines training for the war in Afghanistan. But as the scene goes on, it quickly transitions into a shot of him deciding to drive all the way back home and pick up his brother from prison. And this is where you start to realize that, despite the differences between him and his brother, this is a man who really cares about his family. And to me, I thought that this was a perfect introduction into who he really is as a person. And not just that, but it perfectly sets up everything for the film that you are about to see. And I am not going to lie to you right now. Out of all of the films that I have seen in my life, no movie shows a more realistic and honest depiction of PTSD better than this film right here. And you can really see that from Sam Cahill's character arc throughout the film. One of the most interesting things about him as a character is the way in how he tries to do everything that he can in order to cope with the trauma and guilt that he feels after losing his friend in Afghanistan. And while he knows that it won't bring any peace to his own life, you can really see that he is trying to become a better person through the relationships that he has with Grace and Tommy Cahill. And not just that, but he is a pretty realistic depiction of how war can slowly destroy a man's life as a whole. And to me, it is just honestly one of the main reasons on why he is such a well written and deeply complex character. And you can really see that from Tobey Maguire's powerful performance in this movie. And I am not going to let it right now. He deserves a lot of praise for his performance right here, as it was just that fucking good. And not just that, but this is a pretty realistic depiction of a man who has been brutally destroyed and consumed by his own experiences in the war. And not just that, but you really feel bad for his character in a way. And it is just honestly one of the main reasons on why this film is most definitely worth your fucking time. And if there was one thing that I really liked about his performance in this movie, is the way in how he brought so much depth and humanity into this character. As it really goes to show you that he is honestly one of the best actors working in Hollywood today. And not just that, but he really proved that he could do so much more than just playing Spider-Man. And overall, Sam Cahill is such a well-written and deeply complex character. And Tobey Maguire honestly makes this film better than it already is. And I am not going to let it right now. This is definitely up there as being one of the most emotionally powerful performances in the history of cinema. As it felt so real, but so raw, all at the same time. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal did a pretty good job playing Tommy Cahill, despite the fact that he wasn't in the film all that much. And to me, one of the most interesting things about him as a character is the way in how he tries to do everything that he can in order to become a better person and improve on his own life for the better. Even if it means that he will need to lose his own sense of reality and comfort. But if there was one thing that I really liked about his performance, is the way in how he brought so much depth into the role. As it really makes Tommy Cahill so much more than just a generic side character, but someone who you can actually care about and feel sympathy for. And you can really see that from his desperation in wanting to become a better man. And not just that, but I thought the relationship between him and his brother was just so well done, as it is just honestly one of the main reasons on why this film is just so fucking powerful. And overall, this is honestly one of Jake Gyllenhaal's most underrated performances, as it really goes to show you that he can do such an amazing job at playing characters who are deeply complex, even if they aren't the main character at times. And it wasn't just him and Tobey Maguire that gave great performances, but I thought the supporting cast all did a pretty good job playing their characters, even if they weren't in the film all that much, especially from Curry Mulligan as Cassie Willis and Patrick Fluger as Private Joe Willis. And I am not going to let it right now. This is definitely up there as being some of the most powerful acting that you are ever going to get from a film like this. I thought Jim Sheldon's direction of this film was just so well done, as it really goes to show you that he is honestly one of the most underrated directors in the history of modern cinema. And you can really see that from how he does such an amazing job at telling a deeply compelling and powerful story about a man dealing with PTSD and how it affects his family as a whole. And not just that, but it really goes to show you that he is just the absolute best, especially when it comes to telling stories that feel deeply human in a way. And Brothers is a perfect example of that. And I am not going to let it right now. We need more movies just like this, especially when we are living in a time of where every film that is coming out nowadays is nothing more but generic and soulless slop that nobody fucking asked for. And also, do you want to know what's the biggest problem affecting Hollywood right now? Is the fact that they are hiring writers who don't give a fuck about telling a good story, but more about pushing their own agenda. Also, do you want to know why we go to films in the first place? Is to just be entertained and get a good story from it. It's just that fucking simple. And if Hollywood can't realize that, then just look at the fact that every film that is coming out nowadays is bombing at the box office. And while there were some amazing films that came out this year, just look at Obsession, for example. It doesn't excuse the fact that there is just no hope for Hollywood anymore, as they did it to themselves. And you know what? They fucking deserve it! And I am not going to let it right now. Jim Sheldon deserves a lot of praise for his direction of this film right here, as he made an absolute masterpiece that will stay with you long after it's over. And I totally recommend that you should go check out some of his other films like The Left Foot and many of his other films, as they are just absolute masterpieces that we just don't get from modern Hollywood anymore. And the best thing about those films is that they star Daniel Day-Lewis, who is still one of the greatest actors in the history of modern cinema. The cinematography is honestly one of the main reasons on why this film is just so fucking good. But if there was one thing that I really liked about it, is the way in how it does such an amazing job at making every scene feel emotionally powerful but realistic all at the same time, as it's all done to reflect the film's themes of PTSD and damaged families as a whole. And not just that, but it perfectly reflects Sam Cahill's mental state throughout the film, and you can really see that through the film's use of color. And overall, this is honestly some of the best cinematography that I have ever seen in a film like this, as it fits perfectly with the film's themes and its story. And while it may look generic at times, it makes the film so much better than it already is. And not just that, but this is honestly some of Frederick Elm's best work, as he is the same cinematographer who worked with David Lynch on a lot of his films, and I totally recommend that you should go check out Lost Highway, as that film is just visually stunning. I thought Natalie Portman did a pretty good job playing Grace Cahill, despite the fact that she was only in the film for a couple of scenes. But if there was one thing that I really liked about her performance, is the way in how she brought so much depth into the role, as it really makes her so much more than just a side character, but someone who is deeply compelling. And you can really see that from the way in how she tries to do everything that she can in order to help Sam Cahill out with his own situation, despite the fact that she has been in a relationship with Tommy Cahill. And overall, this is honestly one of her best performances, as it really goes to show you that she can do such an amazing job at playing characters who are deeply complex. And you can really see that from this film right here, and many of her other roles like Black Swan, for example. And this goes the same way, especially when it comes to Sam Shepard's performance as Hank Cahill, despite the fact that he wasn't in the film all that much. But still, he did a pretty good job playing his character. And not just that, but I thought Bailey Madison did such an amazing job at playing Isabel, as she brought so much depth into that character, despite the fact that she was only a child at that time. And it really goes to show you that that is honestly one of the best child performances that I have ever seen in a film like this. No, honestly, the acting in this film is just so fucking powerful. I thought the scene on where Sam Cahill has to kill Private Joe Willis is honestly one of the most emotionally powerful scenes that I have ever seen in a film like this, as it fits perfectly with the film's themes and its story. So the scene immediately starts off with Sam Cahill being forced to kill one of his friends by the Taliban. And while he tries to do everything that he can in order to avoid the situation and disobey their orders, we see one of the guards deciding to put a gun to his head as a way of pushing him beyond the breaking point. And then the scene ends with a shot of Sam Cahill beating Private Joe Willis with the metal pipe. And I just want to say that Tobey Maguire's acting in the scene is really fucking powerful. And overall, this was a deeply powerful scene, as it fits perfectly. Hi! As it fits perfectly with everything that this whole movie is about, especially when you realize that this is one of the main reasons on why he got PTSD in the first place. And to me, it really goes to show you that Brothers is just one of those movies that will stay with you long after it's over. One of the most interesting things about this film is the way in how it does such an amazing job at showing a pretty realistic depiction of PTSD in war veterans. And you can really see that from Sam Cahill's character arc throughout the second half of the film, as he spends his whole life being deeply consumed by the trauma he feels after the war. And what makes it even worse is how it affects his family. And while he knows that he is completely unable to escape and cope with the guilt that he feels, you can really see his desperation in wanting to do everything that he can in order to escape from the trauma of what happened at that time, even if he knows that he is completely unable to return to a normal life with his family. And not just that, but it really goes to show you that this is honestly one of the most emotionally powerful movies that has ever been made, as it felt so realistic but so raw all at the same time. And I am just going to let you know that this is a remake of a Danish film. But despite that, this movie is most definitely worth your time, as it shows PTSD and war for what it really is: a hell that you can never escape from. I thought the mental breakdown scene in the kitchen is honestly one of the most emotionally powerful scenes that I have ever seen in a film like this, as it fits perfectly with everything that this whole movie is about. So after the dinner party, we see a shot of Sam Cahill sitting in the living room. But when Grace comes over to see what's going on, he immediately decides to take all his anger out on her and destroy the kitchen until he starts to realize that the cops have already been called on him by Tommy Cahill. And I just want to say that the acting from Tobey Maguire in this scene is honestly some of the best acting that I have ever seen in a film like this, as you can really feel his pain and guilt throughout the film. Like, seriously, this guy played Spider-Man in the original trilogy. But if you look at this film right here, it proves that he can be a really good actor. In fact, one of the most underrated actors in the history of modern Hollywood. Like, seriously, he should get a lot more praise for his performances, especially from this film right here, as he brought so much depth in this film. And this movie would have not have worked as strongly as it did without his performance and Jim Sheldon's direction. And I am not going to lie to you right now. This is a pretty realistic depiction of a man who has been brutally destroyed by the war. And not just that, but it is honestly one of the main reasons on why this film will be remembered as being an absolute masterpiece of filmmaking. And honestly, the writing in this film is just so fucking good, as it shows what war really feels like for veterans in ways that most movies will never try to do. And I am not going to let it right now. If you want a film with good writing, good acting, and good writing, go watch this film, as it's most definitely worth your fucking time. Because when I first saw it, no film has affected me more than this film right here, as it felt so fucking real, but raw all at the same time. And I actually will admit, for a remake, this was actually pretty fucking good. Like, really, you're not gonna get films like this ever again, so go watch it while you still can. This is the rating that this film got on Rotten Tomatoes, so 63% from the critics and 62% from the audience. And I am going to read out the reviews right now. So for the first review, although Brothers is not a first-rate film, it informs us about the after effects of war and is worth seeing while we wait for better ones to come along. For the second one, the entire cast is first rate, especially Tobey Maguire. who shows a lot of range in a really difficult role. And I actually will admit, even though that this is a simple story about a war veteran coming to terms with himself and his own PTSD, it's a powerful film about family and relationships too. For the third one, Brothers may look like another veteran adjusting to life at home movie, but the heart of this film is a rich exploration of family relationships. For the fourth one, remakes this good are one in a million. For the fifth review, Brothers is an elegant and devastating portrait, an exploration of identity. And that is something that I most definitely agree with. And as I read these reviews, it's nice seeing a film like this getting the praise that it deserves, especially from the reviews that it got from critics and audiences. And to me, it really goes to show you that this film is most definitely worth your fucking time, as it does such an amazing job at showing war and PTSD for what it really is. And while it may look generic and flawed at times, it is definitely a whole lot better than the woke dog shit that we get from modern Hollywood, especially nowadays. I thought the soundtrack was just so well done, as it fits perfectly with everything that this whole movie is about. And I'm gonna show you an example of it right now, as it's just extremely emotional in a way. No, really, this is a film with heart. And we just don't get that from modern Hollywood anymore. And it's crazy how a remake from 2009 can be so much better than the remakes that we get today, as they feel soulless. While here, it is actually complex and deeply well written. It really goes to show you that Hollywood just doesn't give a fuck about telling good stories anymore. Because even though they used to care about that like a long time ago, it just doesn't happen anymore. And it's just sad. Really. Okay, let's fucking do this. remakes don't get this good. Like, really, it's nice seeing a remake that actually respects the source material without disrespecting it or doing something different. Well, this one, it respects the source material while telling a good story. That's just what most remakes nowadays just don't have anymore, and Hollywood just doesn't get it. People want good stories, and this film does that perfectly. It's tragic too. Because you're not sure if he might return to a normal life or remain trapped in his own mind. That's just how good the writing of this film is. You can really thank Damien Benioff for what he did with this film right here. No, not Damien Benioff, David Benioff. I just want to let you know that he even wrote the film Stay 2005 too, which is another great film if you haven't seen it. Like, really, the acting in this film is really good, even from the child actors too. They do a really good job. I would describe this film as being an American tragedy. Because that's just what it is. It's tragic, it's hauntingly beautiful, it's powerful. This is a film that Hollywood would wish it would want to make today, but it just can't. I am going to explain the ending of this film. So, after getting arrested by the police, we see a shot of Grace deciding to meet Sam Cahill at the mental hospital. And they start talking about what happened to him in the war. And she tells him that if he doesn't talk about what's affecting him, she might never see him ever again. But when Sam finally opens up to the fact that he killed Joe Willis, the film ends with Grace and Sam Cahill hugging each other as he narrates that he might never return to a normal life. And that is just fucking tragic. And overall, I thought this was a perfect but depressing ending to a film like this, as it fits perfectly with everything that this whole movie is about. And not just that, but it does such a great job at implying that he is completely unable to return to a normal life with his family and will always remain as being a prisoner of his own mind. And to me, it is just honestly one of the main reasons on why this film will be remembered as being an absolute masterpiece that will stay with you long after it's over. I'm gonna show you the trailers of this film, starting with the first one. Tobey Maguire was so good in this film, and that goes the same way with Natalie Portman too. Now for the second one. This was a really good film. The writing, the directing, everything just works. And this was like one of the American films that Jim Sheldon has ever made. And if you haven't seen The Left Foot with Daniel Day-Lewis, I totally recommend that you should watch it, because it is just that fucking good. And this goes the same way with Brothers too. Like, they're two masterpieces that Hollywood just doesn't know how to make anymore. In conclusion, this was an amazing movie, as it does such an amazing job at portraying PTSD, but in a way that feels realistic and raw all at the same time. And to me, it makes me realize that We just don't get movies like this anymore. Especially when we are living in a time of where every film that is coming out nowadays is either a sequel, prequel, remake, or a spin-off of something that has already came out before. And while there were some really good movies that came out this year, it doesn't excuse the fact that Hollywood is a creatively bankrupt industry. And for a remake like this, it's actually nice seeing a remake that is actually really good and that respects the original film that came before. Imagine that in modern Hollywood today! Because you're not going to get that ever again! You're not going to get a good remake of something that came out before. You're not gonna get that. It's all lazy. It's all garbage content that nobody fucking asked for. And that's what this film does so good at. It's being a remake that actually tries to do something with its story, but in a way that feels deeply compelling. And this was made in 2009. Remakes were good in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. What was one remake of this year or last year or any other year was that good? None, except for one. Dune by Denis Villeneuve. And if there is anything else that I want to say about this film, is go fucking watch it! As it's just an absolute masterpiece when it comes to the acting, writing, and directing, and cinematography. And not just that, but you could really tell that this film was made by a filmmaker who actually gave a fuck about the film that he wanted to make. And he did it perfectly. And I am just going to let you know that the next films that I'm going to be reviewing is Christian F, Trainspotting, Blade Runner 2049, and Whiplash. So go get ready for those. And also, anyway, that's all I got for today. Go away now, and always remember, strike back like a weapon against wokeness. And keep supporting films like this, because we need them now more than ever before. So yeah, see you in the next one.